Kids Playground.
Hooray!
This is the Deron Harris Podcast. Here's your host, Deron Harris.
Yo, what's good, everybody? Welcome back to the program. Hey, how you feeling this week? Hopefully, you're having a good week, or you had a good week, and you're going into the weekend fresh. Gonna get out and do some activities, maybe have a little bit of recreation, some cocktails, hit happy hour for a little bit. Go ahead, y'all. Do you. Go ahead and experience some life. Get out there, see some shit. That's what life is for. Grab it by the horns. Don't be afraid to jump off the ledge. That's my motto. That is the code that I live by. Now, that's a recent code that I have recently developed because for a long time in my life, I always played it safe. I was always this safe dude. I didn't deviate much. I was pretty much a creature of habit. I was really predictable. But I stopped taking so much precaution, if you will, about a lot of things. One thing in particular was my living situation. Or my wife and I's living. I'm married. Our living situation. We were paying rent, and I'll just kind of recap and kind of give you the cliff notes, but we was paying rent. The rent got really high. We decided we didn't want to pay that rent, and we went and bought a Class A RV to live in. And that was last year in maybe August, something like that. July or something like that. July, August is when we decided that we were done paying conventional rent to people. People are ridiculous. People are also greedy. People are charging way more money than they should for apartments that aren't even worth the money that they're charging for them. It really is and has become super ridiculous. I mean, I'm reading stories about places overseas that will pay you to move there. As a matter of fact, a few weeks ago, I did a podcast on that subject. Oh, it's raining outside. Look at that. Sorry, folks, if there's any kind of audio interference. I hope not. But there's countries out there that'll pay you to move there. But meanwhile, here in the United States, everybody wants to charge you an arm and a leg for substandard living quarters. They call a lot of buildings luxury. I lived in a so-called luxury building, right? And this was, I was paying $2,500 a month. Me and my wife were paying $2,500 a month for a tiny one bedroom. It wasn't really large. It was industrial, had the industrial vibe. So they charged a bunch of money for some exposed ductwork and some exposed trusses in the ceiling. And we had a pretty nice balcony with a decent view of the sunset, but nevertheless, it was not a $2,500 apartment. It really was not. It really was not. So we decided we didn't want to pay that shit anymore. So we decided to buy this RV and move our entire lives into it. That's our 3 dogs also. We have 3 dogs. We have a Chihuahua. Her name's Milfy. We have a Shih Tzu Bichon. His name's Blaze. And we have a Great Dane who actually weighs 1 pound more than I do. She weighs 179 pounds. I'm 178. And we all live together in a 30-foot Class A motorhome. A lot of people are like, wow, you guys are crazy. You really did take that plunge. And I don't know if I could actually take that plunge. I hear all kinds of stuff. And I hear, are you happy? I hear that a lot. How do you like it? How do you like RV living? And when I first moved into our RV, I was very excited. I cannot lie, I was super excited. It was great. It was clean. The possibilities of going here, going there, and going a little bit everywhere were fresh and brand new in our heads, and we jumped in it with both feet. Didn't hesitate. Went right at it. So here we are in the month of May, the next year. In the month of May, not quite a year has been here yet, a few more months, and it'll be 1 year. I'll do another update then, but I'm going to do an update now and let you know what's going on. Question number 1, do I still love RV living? Do I still love that lifestyle? The answer to that question is really simple, like real simple, and it's a yeah. I still enjoy the shit out of it. My wife and I, we still embrace it. We love it. We don't go a lot of places. We really don't. Sometimes we have to unhook and go get propane and stuff like that, but we really don't take it a lot of places. Sometimes we do. If we want to stay someplace for a little while, like her sister had to have surgery not too long ago, so we went down to help her out. We kind of stayed right in her driveway. It was great. But something happened while we were staying in the driveway. The generator was running nicely, and something happened, and it stopped running. So the generator stopped running, and it got hot. And we had to figure something else out. But that's just it. What are the pros and cons? What are some questions that I've been asked? Some pros and cons. What's the downside of living in an RV full time? Are there downsides? The answer to that question is absolutely yes. There are downsides to living full time in an RV. It's not exactly what everybody makes it out to be. It's not this. You're traveling across the country with these sunsets and all of this grandeur, and you're standing there looking over the Grand Canyon. It's not always that. It's not always Kodak moments, if you get my meaning. There's a lot of hard times, like trials and tribulations. Like I just mentioned a moment ago that it's raining. Well, anytime it rains in an RV, you have the possibility of moisture. Moisture is not your friend in the RV. It's not built on concrete. It's not foundation. It doesn't have a concrete foundation. It doesn't have that. You're on a vehicle chassis, or a barge, or a flatbed trailer, so to speak, with a house built into it, which is still okay. But it's not as easy as you see on like reality TV or YouTube or any of these reality shows that you might see. It's not that easy. There's stuff that we're going through. Like I said a moment ago, it's raining outside. Well, about 5 days ago, it was raining. Again, it was raining like cats and dogs, raining. And there is a piece of fabric or a canvas called a slide out topper. Now, if you don't know what a slide out, it is just a piece of the RV that slides out to make the room inside a lot larger, a little bit larger. Okay? Now, over the top of that, once it slides out, it's really exposed to all the elements, which will allow moisture or bugs or whatever to get inside of your coach. So what happened was, it rained a few days ago. It rained so hard that we had hail. And it was the first really hard rainstorm of the season. I live here in Florida. So it was the first really hard rainstorm of the season, and we have hail coming down, little pieces of hail, and it's kind of windy, and I didn't pay any attention to it. And the hail got a little bit bigger, and we had to stay inside of the building because we are currently at a building. We have a home base at a building. We have an RV, a private RV slot at a private building. And we're just here home basing and kind of collecting our thoughts, and we're inside the building, and the hail got heavier, and it got a little bit heavier, and it got a little bit heavier and heavier. And pretty soon we had not quite golf ball size hail, but pretty substantial hail, enough to notice outside after it was done. After it was done and the rain had stopped, you went outside, and the whole entire ground was covered in hail, a little bit bigger than a marble, but a little bit smaller than a golf ball. All over the place, everywhere. And we were like, wow, that was crazy. So our first inclination was, wow, let's go out and check the coach, see what happened, blah, 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 blah. And when I went outside, I looked up at the slide out topper, and the first thing I noticed is that it had ripped off in the hailstorm. Now, we've been through other rainstorms, and it has held its integrity. But I noticed in this hailstorm that it really just it became shrapnel. But with that being said, our coach is a 2004, which means it's an 18, 19-year-old coach coming up on 19 years, something like that, 18, 19 years. So some of the things in the coach are a little bit dated, and one thing was the slide out topper. It may have been a little brittle. So, with that being said, again, there are some cons because now I have to fix that. And to fix that, I can either get the canvas, which is about $160, or I can get the whole slide out mechanism, which has the bar that's rolled up and you change the whole slide out bar, which I'm inclined to do because our coach is so old. And that's going to cost me about $330 plus the $145 per hour fee that the RV repair company would charge me to install it. So that's a pretty good chunk of change. And everybody doesn't have a lot of money like that liquid. I sure don't. So what do? Well, I went and got some tarps for $10 at Lowe's. And that is what I'm doing currently right now as it rains on my coach. It's raining right now. So hopefully the wind isn't too bad and doesn't blow the tarps off. I do have some things up there to kind of secure them down to make sure that I don't get a whole lot of moisture. But of course, I'm going to have some moisture because my tarp's ripped. I mean, my slide out topper's ripped and it's not in place where it should be. But a pro to that is after this is done, I'll have a brand new slide out topper. And that's one less thing I got to worry about. Brand new slide out topper. Now, do I have other things to worry about? Absolutely. Like I said, the generator. The generator is very important. It is really vital because that is how all your systems, your refrigerator, your everything really, your hot water, everything, a lot of that stuff runs off of your generator. So when your generator doesn't work, and you're not plugged into shore power, your air conditioner doesn't work. And if you live in a place like I live, like Florida, you're fucked. That's all it is. You're screwed. That's it. You're going to have to run a bunch of fans, and hopefully you can run those fans on the batteries. But the con to that, if your generator doesn't work, then your batteries don't charge. You can't run your batteries down. Now, you can run them down if you want to, but you won't be able to run anything else after that. You won't have lights, any of that. It's not conducive to have an RV without a generator. Now, we just got it fixed a few months ago. It was a starter issue. And that was supposed to cost a bunch of money, but we found a deal. And the deal was $107 for the starter. And I had a buddy that changed it for a keg of beer, not a keg, a case of beer. No kidding. My wife gave him a couple extra dollars. He was like, oh, I wasn't expecting that. But you run across those type of people, and you hold those people close to you. It's a community where people, they kind of rely on each other, even though they're in this nomadic state. Now, we've lived in a campground. We lived at a campground when we first got our coach. We lived in a campground for quite a long time, and the people there, they got to know us. We got to know them, and we had a support system. And those people were transient. Some of them left and came back. We were one of those couples that left and came back a few times, but we didn't go far. We went someplace just because our coach was new and we wanted to do something. So we would go do something, and then we would turn around and come back and go do something for a couple of days and turn around and come back. And nothing really, just kind of go sit in the woods. When it was cooler outside, we could do that. Didn't really need a generator. It was good to kind of be outside, but now it's hot. You need that. So there's some things to living in an RV full time. One of the things, you don't have a lot of storage. There's not a lot of storage. There's just not. Some people go get storage units for their stuff, like us. We went and got storage units if we could have sold all our stuff, we would have done that. But we did this kind of abruptly, so we had to get these storage units. So we have 2 storage units. So we had to get these units. But it takes money out of our pockets. It takes money away to pay these storage units every month, which kind of cuts into the bottom line and the reason why we did this, which was to save money. Now we're paying for 2 storage units that we really don't need to pay for. You know, that's sucking up a few $100s, maybe a couple more, like $300, maybe $400, $350 a month, and just storage for our apartment, the stuff that was in our apartment that we don't really use anymore. There's a bunch of stuff in there that we have no use for, like bureaus and dressers. We have 2 beds and all kinds of stuff, dresser drawers and blah, 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 blah. We got all kinds of stuff. So that's a con. But one of the pros is you really get to find out what you really don't need. You're able to simplify your life. You really are. You really are able to simplify your life because of the lack of space. You really pick and choose those things that are vital for you, that are vital to you. Stuff that you really don't need. Do I really need to get this? No. There's not space for it anyway. What makes you rich? You really figure out what makes you rich, and the stuff that you have inside your apartment does not make you rich. It really doesn't. It's the experiences that you have that make you a rich person. You can be wealthy, monetarily wealthy, but still be poor, still have a poor quality of life. So I look at that as being a pro with inside of a con. What's another con? You have less privacy. Yes, you do. Let's say it together. Your privacy is gone if you live with somebody else. Now, if you're by yourself, you still have the illusion of privacy. However, RV walls are paper thin. So if you can hear it outside, they can hear it inside. So if you're in there jerking off or getting it in or arguing or whatever it is you're doing in there, rest assured that people outside, especially if you're in close proximity to other RVs, they can hear you. They can absolutely hear you just like you can hear them. So keep that in mind. Be mindful of that. But the pro to the less privacy thing is, it teaches you to be more open. It teaches you to be more transparent. It teaches you to be more honest. It teaches you to be honest. It really does. How many times do you think people are being dishonest because they're staring intently into their cell phone, or they're in their phone every time you see them? How many times do you think that, that person's always, it could be harmless. But what it does, I'm on my phone, man. I'm surfing the web. I'm looking at news. I'm checking my Facebook. I'm checking my email. I'm responding to work. I'm looking at fucking funny videos, all kinds of shit, just like everybody else. But a lot of people, when they don't have transparency or when they don't have trust, they go immediately to the worst thing. They go immediately to the worst thing, which damages your relationship. So my experience is having that less privacy makes me a lot more transparent, makes my wife a lot more transparent. We make ourselves a lot more transparent to each other. I mean, really transparent. I mean, I sit at home in my RV with as thin as the walls are, sitting there in my butt ass naked. I don't care. I sit right in, it's my house. This is where I live. It just happens to be a vehicle. But I'll do that. I will sit there and surf the web naked. I respond right away. What are you looking at? I'm looking at this. And I can even back it up by turning my phone face around and showing you. It teaches me transparency. I'm not afraid to say this is what I'm looking at, because especially if the person that you're with, you vibe with, then you shouldn't have that problem anyway, which brings me to my next con, or my next point, which is the person, if you're not by yourself, the person or people that you're traveling with, make sure that these people are your people, okay? Can't be like, hey, we're dating and, we've been together like a year and now we want to jump into full-time RVing and travel the country. Watch the fuck out. Watch out. Watch out. Because if your relationship isn't stable to begin with, when you get on the road, that's going to compound it on top of itself. The one thing that I am blessed with and I am super thankful for is the fact that my wife and I, we have a good relationship. Not only a good physical relationship, but we have a good mental relationship. We have a good intellectual relationship. We have a good relationship. Do we have conflict? Yes, everybody does. We argue from time to time. We don't argue a lot, but when we do, it's a knockdown, drag out. But we always come back to the core of what our relationship is about, which is about the nurturing of each other, the building and growing of this empire together, the ride or die. All of me for all of you. That's what it comes down to. If you can't reach, stand on my shoulders. You could reach. I'll make it so you can reach, and vice versa. And we support each other every day. We are honest with each other. We transparent. We don't have a lot of privacy. It's not like I can go in the bathroom and lock the door and jerk off. Hey, what you doing in there? You know what I'm saying? So it teaches you to be truthful, transparent. A lot of people they say you have to go to the grocery store a lot, and that's a problem. People be like, oh, man, I'm always at the grocery. I like the grocery store. I'm sorry. I love it. I like all the grocery stores, all the way down to Safeway. I like the grocery store. I really do. I cook. I bake. I'm a cocktail maker. I enjoy food. I like the grocery store. I really do. I enjoy the smells. I enjoy the new food. But they say you're always at the grocery store. You're always at the grocery store. You know what? That's actually, for me, it really doesn't change a lot for me. I'm from New York, right? And if you live in New York, you know that a lot of things in New York are the size that they need to be, and you don't get no more than that. And I've lived in small apartments, a lot of my life. And I've also lived with things that are greatly convenient. And I've also learned how to plan my meals. Okay? Now stay with me. I've learned how to plan all that stuff, right? I don't care about going to the grocery store for the specific fact, number one, my food is always fresh. I don't have a large refrigerator. The refrigerator is not large. It just isn't. I don't have one of those RVs that has a full-size refrigerator. I just don't have that. We have a middle model of a 2004 Winnebago. Everything in it is old. I have had to fix some things. I'm still having to fix some things. But like I said, it's a work in progress. And people are like, yo, you have to fix stuff. We have to fix stuff in a house too. But sometimes in a house, things are a lot more expensive. But anyway, I go to the grocery store and I have the opportunity to pick a fresh meal like every other day. There's a produce shop that I go to that's right around the corner from where our RV is parked. And we have a car, so we can drive to it, and we drive right to it, but we can also walk to it. That's the beauty of it. So we drive our car over to the produce market, and then we go over to the grocery store. And we live in a pretty rural area, not so rural, but it's pretty rural. So there's fresh, if we want meat, but we don't even eat a lot of meat anymore. Because we want to eat live food. It really does. It changes your lifestyle. It changes your lifestyle in our case anyway, because we make better food choices because of the limited space in the refrigerator. So we when we go to buy things, we buy things that we don't have a lot of waste after. So after we eat this stuff, I got maybe a little smidgen of it left for lunch tomorrow. And we save a little bit of money on going out. And then we can go out. Every Friday we go out and we eat chicken wings because she likes to eat chicken wings. And we eat these chicken wings. And, man, they're fucking good. But it's like a treat for us to go out and do these things. But it's an even bigger treat to feel vital because your diet changes. Because you make smarter food choices. And when you go to the grocery store, you figure out what you really need. We have rice. We have beans. We got an Instapot. You know what I'm saying? We have peanut butter. So pick and choose. Pick and choose what you want. Because there are things that you have to have and keep, like spices and things of that nature. But we can have different vegetables every night of the week if we want. Which we do. We had okra last night or 2 nights ago. I got some potatoes, some corn and rice, or a few other things. I'm gonna make a pizza today. Yeah, from scratch. So yeah, go to the grocery store. It teaches you how to budget. It teaches you how to plan, how to eat your food. You can change your whole life. You could change your whole life this way. Next point, sometimes the internet is bullshit if you are living at a park. But there are options out there for internet. There really are. One of the new options is Starlink. It's $600 for the receiver, though. Ugh, ouch. But that's only one time. And I think the service is like $120 a month or something like that, which is okay. And you get internet everywhere. You just don't get it while you're riding down the street yet. But still, if you're stationary, you're good. Sit anywhere you want. Pull over in the parking lot at the Cracker Barrel, which a pro of the Cracker Barrel is they let RVs stay overnight. Remember that? But there are internet options out there today. There's options that everybody can take to make sure that they're connected. You can't do anything online. My wife works from home. She works from the coach when we're out. I have a podcast. My podcast, I have my own studio. I still have to send it to my producers. I need to have the internet. So we need to have a strong connection. Thankfully for us, at our home base, we have an internet connection, which helps. It really does. It helps. It helps. It really does. Spotty internet, for lack of a better phrase, is bullshit. I'm sorry. Especially in a digital age where we need the internet, where most of us need the internet to function on our daily lives. But a pro to not having the good internet and you can't get online and it's bullshit is you get off the internet for a while and you experience life. You sit down, you have conversations with the person that you're with, or you go explore things you've never seen before. You don't sit there in front of your phone for hours and hours and hours and mindlessly scroll through the internet. You just don't do it because you don't have it. You do other things like work out because you're bored. Some people take a nap, but you can only take so many naps, you know what I mean? Before you have to get up and go do stuff. So my wife and I, that's exactly what we did. And when we didn't have good internet, that's what we did. We drove here, we would go there, we would check this out, we would see this and see that. We'd take the coach and then go see another area and see this and see that and bring the coach back and drive, and we'd just explore and see stuff. Learn things about the area that you're in. See the countryside, meet people, enrich your life, enrich somebody else's. It helped us talk to each other more than we already do. We talk every day. We laugh hysterically. I've said this before too on my podcast. We laugh hysterically every day about something, but this even made it tenfold. Yeah, sometimes we're like, God damn it, we want to get on the internet and do, yeah. But it sure is nice sometimes to wake up in the morning and talk to each other as opposed to wake up in the morning, the first thing you grab is your telephone and start scrolling. It sure is nice to wake up in the morning, the first thing that you feel is a kiss on your cheek from your person instead of waking up and looking over and they're scrolling the internet or I'm scrolling the internet. You know what I'm saying? It's the truth. Now, I've heard people say that it's like a nomadic lifestyle and you don't know nobody and people don't. That's bullshit. People do. You meet people all the time. We met some great people in the place that we were, in the RV park that we were at. We've met some great people. Now, we've since then left that RV park and we've managed to keep in contact with a couple of those people. Not everybody, but there's a couple of those people out there. And also, the people that own the RV park told us that we're always welcome there. So we're always welcome there, which I really do appreciate. And that comes from community. When we first got to this RV park, we didn't know anything about a lot of stuff. We didn't even know about RVing. We'd never done this before. And here we have this RV. But there were so many people who came to our RV and said, hey, this is how you do this. Oh, if that happens, pull this button or push this button. Or if this goes down, pull that lever. Or flip this switch to do that. Or you might want to caulk your windows around this time of year. Or the sun damage. You got to re-caulk the top of your RV to make sure that you don't get leakage. Wow. Thanks. All kinds of stuff from complete strangers. And really, down here in the South, there's not a lot of RVers of color. But so far, I really have to say, I have not experienced that that bullshit against us that seems to be going around the state of Florida. I haven't experienced that on these travels as of yet, even though I have heard many stories about it. I just haven't experienced it. As a matter of fact, it's been quite the opposite, where people are more than helpful and more than willing to point us in the right direction, more than willing to help us. We had somebody just come right out of nowhere and just give us a whole bunch of firewood just for nothing. He didn't want nothing in return, but what I did instead, I said, hey, man, come over and get your hot dog, man. Whatever. We're just making hot dogs, sitting out here enjoying the starry night, the fall night, the winter night that we were sitting there having. And we sat there and we grilled hot dogs and we talked to our new RV friend, Phil. Never going to forget Phil. Phil's a great dude. Got Phil's number. So if I'm ever in the same place or find myself where I'm looking around and we're your friends, and hey, Phil, I'm down the street from you. I can go see my man Phil. You do have community. There is community, especially there is community because there are people that live in these RV parks full time. Phil has been living in this RV park that we were at for 6 years. He lived there for 6 years in that same space. In his fifth wheel. He had a fifth wheel RV and a Harley Davidson. He didn't even have a truck to pull. He had a fifth wheel and Harley Davidson. Now, recently we drove back by there and Phil's RV is gone. So I want to ride by and find out exactly where Phil went to. Or even better yet, because I have Phil's number, I'm going to give him a call and say, hey, man, where'd you go? Because there's community there. So don't let people fool you about, but on the other side of that, there are people who are transient. There are people who are, but the cool part about that is you got people that are from everywhere. You meet people from everywhere. And if you got somebody that's there for like a week or a month and they're from this place and you make a connection with them, that's a possibility that you could go out to visit them wherever they are. And you make new friends and you build new experiences. And that's what life is about, folks. That is what it's about. There's a lot of camaraderie and community in the RV lifestyle. Now, don't get me wrong. There's some scumbags out there. There's some fucking douchebags out there. But think about it. A lot of people don't get into RVing they get into RVing to relax, to live a easier pace of life, less stress. Even though things can be stressful, it really is a break from the hustle and bustle. People say they used to say you couldn't find a job, but there's so many online jobs now that, yeah. So the con people were talking about, you couldn't find a job. Yeah, that's bullshit. There's jobs all out there. On Amazon, Apple, everybody's paying people to sit on their phones and surf the internet and talk to customer service, all kinds of stuff, or work on other things. There's all kinds of positions. You can go to college online, all kinds of stuff. There's stuff to do. People say you got to deal with the shit that breaks on your coach. Yes, that is a con. The shit that breaks, and things do break. Like I said, there's some things that I have to fix in the coach. The generator is one of them. The slide-out topper is another one. There's a little bit of leakage coming in to the shower from the ceiling, so I have to pull up the caulking around the skylight and recaulk that down. But the pro to that is you learn how to do these things. And also, it's cheaper than doing it on a house. You know what I'm saying? Because you got to deal with repairs in a house, too. Now, if you rent in your apartment, your maintenance man's got to do it, but you rent your apartment. You don't own anything. I own this RV. My wife and I, we own this RV. This is our home. It's just like anybody's apartment, except for it moves. Our rent at places that we've stayed is a lot cheaper than $2,500 a month. It really is. So don't be afraid. Don't be afraid to jump into this lifestyle. All right, there are some horror stories out there. As a matter of fact, I heard a horror story today. I was reading the news in San Antonio. An RV burst into flames, but there were no casualties. Burst into flames. It was an older coach, older than ours. And from what they understand, it was electrical. The gentleman was taken to the hospital with some burns on his foot or something like that. But that's what happened. It burst into flames. Yes, there are horror stories out there. And not for nothing, I have seen here in this town, I ride by this little road, and it's like a RV graveyard of all these wrecked RVs where people have wrecked these RVs. And that's scary to me. It's very scary to me. It's very scary to me. So with that being said, I make sure that I take a lot of precaution whenever I'm driving to anywhere. I make sure I get on my knees and I pray to God to make sure that I have a safe trip. Because that's very important, is to get everything that I love to one place safely. And that, my friends, is a con sometimes, because the way that the roadways are today, there are so many people out there who think they're fucking Batman. It's a shame. It really is. And I'm over it, because you put my family and my life and your life in jeopardy. And I'm sorry, I can't allow you to do that. So I take local highways. I do not get on the interstate. I'm sorry. I'm only doing 55 miles per hour. If you're pissed off, fuck off. Go around me. I'm not going to wreck my family because you need to get down the road a little bit faster. Your hurry is really not my worry. It really isn't. I think this is a good stopping spot for a minute. I'm going to take a break, go get myself a drink, go to the bathroom like I do every week, and I'll come back and we'll talk more about RV living, where we are a little bit less, a little bit more than a year. I'm sorry, I don't know what I'm talking about, but we're going to talk more RV living when I come back from this break. This is the Deron Harris Podcast. I'll be right back.
Over the past few years, the COVID-19 pandemic has affected how we live our daily lives.
Today, 1 in 5 Americans experience emotional and mental health challenges, but many of us do not understand what we are facing or how to ask for help.
At the American Psychiatric Association Foundation, we work every day to eliminate stigma, combat mental illness and substance use disorders, and advance mental health.
If you or someone you love needs help, you are not alone. Please visit mentallyhealthynation.org to learn more.
Now, back to the Deron Harris Podcast.
Hey, folks, welcome back to the program. The rain has stopped, and the sunshine is coming out. Today, we're talking about living full-time in our RV. Do we still love it? And the answer to that question, like I said, is yes. We still enjoy living in our Class A RV, and the reasons why are a mile long. They really are. They really are. We have such a better quality of life since we have made this jump. And if you are out there and you are thinking, I think I want to give it a try, do this first, okay? There are some companies where you can rent an RV for like a weekend. Rent an RV for the weekend. Rent an RV for the weekend. Make a reservation or vacation. If you got a vacation coming up, why not make it an RV vacation? And that way you can see a few different places. Fly to some place and drive the RV back. Or drive the RV out and fly back. Do that first before, if you're thinking about it. Go stand at Camping World or Lazy Days or the General or RV or one of these places. Go in there and check them out. Get online, do some research. If you're thinking about it, that's exactly what we did. We thought about it. And we talked about it. We had talked about it. I thought about it before I met her. She thought about it before she met me. Then we met each other, thought about it, talked about it, and then kind of put it to the side, but always knew that, it was something that both of us were intrigued about, that we wanted to try. that we were wholeheartedly committed to one day trying. And the stars aligned, and we were able to make that leap. So what is in our future? What's in my future? What's in the future for us as far as RVing is concerned? Now, do we want to continue to bounce around? No, of course not. We do want to, of course, eventually end up someplace. But we're thinking that we don't want a house. We don't want a house. What are you talking about, Darren? You heard me. We don't want a house. We want another RV. We want to upgrade our RV. But what we do want is land. We want some acreage. We want some land somewhere. Preferably somewhere where their ideologies align with ours. We share the same morals, but we're open to any community that's open to us. Simple as that. So we're out actively, not really actively, semi-actively, almost actively looking for land. And we've looked in a lot of different states. Definitely looked here in Florida. There's a lot of stuff in Florida. There's also a lot of spiders, gators, and snakes in Florida. Nothing else really over here in the South appeals to me other than maybe parts of Georgia, like closer to Atlanta, but nothing in like Kentucky or any of that where they don't necessarily like my kind, because I've heard those stories too, because that's out there. That is another con because that's out there. But like I said in the last segment, a pro is so far for us is that we have not experienced that. But I have read plenty of blogs, seen plenty of articles about that subject. We want to buy land. We want a lot of it. We want some acreage. Now, for what we paid in rent, for what we were paying in rent, we could have a pretty substantial piece of land. And then what are you going to do with that land? Well, very simple. We're going to build a barn on it. Put a concrete pad down, water, power, and sewer. And we're going to put a barn on it, a place where we can jack our RV into every time that we're here, and a place that we can leave whenever we want and come back to whenever we want. An actual home base. But we don't want to just do it here. We want to do it in several other places. I want a piece of property over here and another piece of property over there. That's what we've been talking about. But like I said, we've just decided that for right now, of course, that could change in the future. We might get tired of riding around with the windows down. But for right now, we love it. We don't have any real complaints. So if you want my advice, and if you ask me, should you choose this lifestyle? I say it depends on one thing. How tough are you? How resilient are you? Because you're going to need some resilience to see it through. Because you're going to have those times where you doubt yourself. Should I have done this? This isn't a good idea. The wind is blowing too hard. The generator is broken. But if you can put into perspective the reasons why you did it, it becomes a hell of a lot easier. It becomes a hell of a lot more worth it. It really does. I am not tied now. I can have a piece of land, so I don't have to own a house to have a piece of land to put something that I can dwell on it. So I think that's going to do it for my podcast this week, folks. Yeah, do I have anything else? Do I have anything else I want to talk to you guys about as far as this subject is concerned? Oh, yeah, one more thing. Remodeling. You can remodel your coach. So if you got one that looks like grandmommy's house, you can make it look like your house. And that's exactly what we did. We slapped a coat of paint on it, got some pictures and put them up on the walls, and you really can't tell the difference. So we enjoy it. We love it. And if you do it, good luck to you. God bless you. I hope that you love it just as much as we do. But if you don't, I completely understand. If you don't agree with the views and opinions that I may have, I completely get it. I don't hold it against you. And happy RVing, everybody. I want to go ahead and thank my wife, my mom, and my dad. I want to thank my best friend. I want to thank the station producer. I want to thank all my label mates, all my other podcast mates. They're awesome people. Go listen to their podcast. Go check out my YouTube channel. I got a YouTube channel. It's Deron, DeronHarris. You cannot miss it. It's my YouTube channel. All right, folks, that's going to do it to me. That's going to do it to me. No, that's going to do it for me for this week's episode of the Deron Harris Podcast. I will see you next Friday at the same time. Hopefully, if they put it out at the same time. And on the same podcast platform, which is all of them. So download my podcast wherever you get your podcast from. I'll see you next week, folks. Peace.
You've been listening to the Deron Harris Podcast. Subscribe to the show, give a good rating, and everything you need to know is at DeronHarris.com.